Hi, fifth grade. Today we're going to be doing Module 3, Lesson 6, and we're going to be continuing to subtract fractions, except you'll notice that the first fraction we're going to start with is now a mixed number instead of just a regular fraction, and then we'll subtract from there. So we're still going to be drawing those rectangular models and then subtracting from there. So let's go ahead and get started. Make sure you have your Lesson 6 notes in front of you. So for the first model, what I need to do is I need to show what 1 1/3 looks like. So I kind of drew this little line off to the side just so you can see that this model right here is supposed to represent 1 1/3. So I have one whole, and then I have a third. But just to make sure that when I go to subtract, this looks the way it's supposed to, I'm going to split everything into thirds. So I split everything into thirds, and the reason why I do this is another way I can think of 1 1/3 is as 4/3, because I know that 1 is the same thing as 3/3, which is one whole, and then if I have 1/3 more, I just need to shade in one more part. So I'm showing 1 1/3, or 1, 2, 3, 4 thirds. Now I need to show what a half looks like. So again, I have this little arrow over here just to show you that this model is meant to show what my half looks like. So I'm going to cut this model in half, and then I will shade in one part of it because I just need 1/2. Now, just like before, I want all of my models to look the same. So since I cut these models into thirds vertically or up and down, I need to cut this one into thirds vertically as well. So I'll do that now. And then since this one was cut in half horizontally, then both of these need to be cut in half horizontally. So I'll cut these in half, just like so. And now I need to write what my new equivalent fraction is. And to do this, I can write an improper fraction because it's going to be a little bit easier for me to subtract later on. So what I see right here is I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shaded in parts out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total parts. Because remember, we just want the parts for a whole, not the total amount of parts. You might think that you need 12 down here, but you don't. You just need this 6 because we just want the parts for one whole. So we have 8, 6, which I know is an improper fraction, but we are going to subtract, so don't worry about trying to change that yet. And then after that, I'm going to be subtracting 1, 2, 3, 6, because again, I have 6 total parts right here, and 3 of those parts are shaded in. Now I need to subtract. So I have 8, 6 minus 3, 6. So yes, I can do 8 minus 3. I know 8 minus 3 is 5, which leaves me with 5, 6. And 5, 6 is a great fraction. It's not an improper fraction, so I can leave it the way it is. But I also want to show that work in my model as well. So I'm going to take a different color. I'm going to take my blue marker right now. And I see that over here I have 3 spaces filled in. So over here I need to cross off 3 spaces. So I'm going to cross off 1, 2. Remember, I always like to start with the second model and then make my way over here. So I have 1, 2, 3. And now I can count how much I have left over, and that is my answer. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes left over out of a total of 6 boxes, which gives me 5, 6. So these problems are very similar again to the problems that you just did in the previous lesson. We're now just making our numbers a little bit bigger, and that is it. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract this and get started on the second problem. So for this one, we are going to be subtracting 1 1/5. Again, we have a mixed number, and we're subtracting 1/3. So I need to draw the model to show 1 1/5. So I have one whole that looks just like that, and then I have another model to show my fifth. Now remember, I don't want to leave this model just the way it is. I want to cut it into fifths as well. So 3, 4, and then I'll cut this one into fifths, just like that. And now I need to shade in to show what this fraction would look like as a visual model or a rectangular model. So I know that if I have number 1, that means I have one whole. So I need to shade in all of these fifths. So that I have 5 fifths over here. But I still have this 1/5 left over, and that's why I have the second model. I'll show 1/5 just like that. So in total, I have 6 fifths, but I'm showing it with 1 whole and 1/5. Now I need to subtract 1/3, so I'll draw a model for 1/3. And this one I'm going to draw horizontally, so side to sides. And that will be cut into thirds, and I need to shade in just 1 part. So there's my 1/3. Now I need to make sure that both my models look the same. So if this one was cut into fifths vertically or up and down, then this one needs to be cut into fifths vertically. So I'll do that now. And then this one was cut into thirds horizontally. So I need to cut these ones into thirds horizontally. If you don't remember which way you need to cut them, just think about, well, this one was cut vertically already. I need to cut it horizontally then. And then just look at the other number and think about, well, how do I need to cut that up? Just like this one, we originally had it cut horizontally, so that lets you know you need to cut it now vertically. So that's why we do that differently for each step. So now we need to figure out what our equivalent fractions are, and then we can subtract. So I'm going to do my quick trick to count all these boxes over here. So I'm going to go across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then go down 1, 2, 3. 5 times 3 is 15, and then I still need to add these shaded boxes. So I have 15, 16, 17, 18. And I know that the total amount of boxes in this model is 15. So I have 18 15ths shown right here, and I am subtracting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 15ths. Now you probably can do this in your head, 18 minus 5, and I'm also going to show you what we can do to show that with our model. So if I have 5 15ths over here and I'm subtracting that, I'm going to start crossing off boxes over here. So I am going to subtract 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I can count how much I have left over, and that is my final answer. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 15ths. And if you ever do have difficulty with subtraction, crossing off your boxes and then counting them over here is a great way to check your answer instead of making any mistakes over here if you have difficulty with this mental math. All right, we're going to move on to our next problem, and you are now going to be practicing drawing these models. So we have 1 1/2 minus 2/3. So just like before, we have to show what 1 1/2 looks like. So to do that, you should draw a box that shows my whole, and then I need another box or model to show my half. Now both of these, I'm going to cut them in half vertically, so just like this. And then I need to think about, well, how many pieces do I need to shade in total? Well, I know if I have this one out in front, that means I need to shade in 1 whole. So 1 whole would be that much. And then I still have this half left over, so I'll shade in half of this figure. Now for my 2/3, I'll draw that off to the side over here, except now instead of cutting vertically, I have to cut horizontally, which is going side to side. But remember, I always want to check this numerator to see how many pieces I need to shade in. So instead of just 1, I need to shade in 2 pieces right now. So I shade in just like this. And then I can start cutting up my figures so that they match. So these were cut in half vertically. So that means this one needs to be cut in half vertically as well. This one, though, was cut into thirds horizontally or side to side. So these need to be cut horizontally into thirds as well. So I do that to both models. So I can have that equivalent fraction, and so we have those common denominators all the way around. All my models now look the same except for the shaded parts, so I can now write my equivalent fractions. So I'm going to count how many I have over here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Remember, you're adding all the shaded parts all together. So we have 9, and then I count how many total parts are in 1, whole. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 9 6 right now, minus 1, 2, 3, 4, minus 4, 6. And we can now subtract. So I have 9 minus 4. I know that 9 minus 4 is 5, and that will leave me with 5, 6. But I can also show it in my model as well. So if I have 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes I need to cross off, starting with my part, I will go 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that then leaves me with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes left out of 6 total boxes, which leaves me with the answer of 5, 6 as well. So we are going to move on to our very last problem now, and this one's going to get a little bit tricky because I'm going to have a lot more shaded in pieces than I normally do. So we are going to be solving for 1 3/4 minus 4/5, just like that. So just like before, you're going to be drawing these models. If you want to, you could even try to challenge yourself and pause the video here and try this problem on your own. If not, you then go ahead and follow along with me right now. So for 1 3/4, I have to show that in my model. So I have my 1 whole, and then I have my 3/4. And then I need to cut this model into fourths. The reason why I'm cutting it into fourths is because my denominator is a 4. So remember, I always start vertically, up and down. So I cut it into fourths, just like so. And if this step is ever hard for you drawing the boxes, go ahead and grab yourself a ruler, because that makes it a little bit easier. So I have my 1 whole, which means I need to shade in all 4 pieces right here. But then I still have 3/4 left, so I need to shade in 3 more pieces. So I have 1, 2, 3. So I have my 1 3/4. But I also need to draw this fraction, which is 4/5. So horizontally, I cut this one into fifths. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I need to shade in 4 parts out of the 5 total parts because my numerator is 4. So I shade in 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I need to make my models look the same. So starting with this one, I think about, well, how did I cut this one up vertically? I cut this one vertically into fourths. And I need to cut this one now up vertically into fourths. So I go 1, 2, 3. And then after that, I know that I cut this one into fifths horizontally, so I need to cut this one into fifths horizontally as well. So I do that for both of these models over here, because they're part of the same number. And then I figure out what my equivalent fraction is. And what really helps is that little trick you saw me do earlier where I count across and I count down and I multiply. So again, this is how we do it. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 4 times 5 is 20. And then I count these over here. If I really want to, instead of going 21, 22, 23, I could also do that little trick over here. So I have 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 3 times 5, which is 15. And I think about, well, what is 20 plus 15? That would be 35. If you can't do all that math in your head, that's totally fine. You can count these dots if you need to one by one, or count 20 over here, and then do 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. That is also fine to do that strategy. So now I need to figure out what my denominator is. And remember, we counted 20 parts over here. And that lets me know that in 1 whole, I have 20 parts, and that would be my denominator. So I have 35/20 minus, and again, we're going to use that trick. We're going to go across 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go down 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 16, because 4 times 4 is 16. I have 16/20. And now I need to subtract. Now this is where crossing off your boxes becomes a little bit more important, because you might not be able to do 35 minus 16 in your head, and that's okay. But using the strategy could help you out. So I know that I have 16 boxes I need to cross off. So starting over here, I'm going to cross off 16. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. So I crossed off this entire model, and I crossed off just one part over here. So what that leaves me with is 19. And the reason why I have 19 left is I remember that this whole box equaled 20. If I take away 1, 20 minus 1 gives me 19. If you need to, though, and again, you can't do that mental math, it's fine for you to go back and just count all the boxes to find your answer. Now, I need my denominator. Remember that denominator does not change. I am left with a great fraction. It's not an improper fraction, so I can just leave it the way it is, and 19/20ths is my final answer. So what you're going to do now, 5th grade, is you are going to try the U-try problem, which is 1 4/9 minus a half. So you are going to make sure that you draw 2 models to show 1 4/9, and then draw one more model to show your half. Make them look the same, and then after that you should be able to find your equivalent fractions and subtract and solve. Look back at the rest of the notes to help you solve this problem, and then check in with me when you are done. Good luck today, 5th grade, and great job.